There is a lot of talk coming out of really the whole NFL that now Brock Purdy is the league leader as far as odds for MVP. And he's not the only one on the team that has MVP potential. We know that CMC does as well. And there's a lot to discuss. Now, every Tuesday, you give us an update of where Brock Purdy stands and is trending versus the league. I love these updates. I'm assuming that a lot of these trends went up week over week coming off of a great game that he had against Philadelphia. Why don't you give us those? And then let's talk about MVP. The way that we're going to do it is you're going to take the Brock argument. I'm going to take the CMC argument. This isn't necessarily how we feel, but we're going to make an argument for either or to get the MVP. And the way that we're going to do it is you're going to talk about Brock. I'll talk about CMC. But first, why don't you get to those Tuesday stats?
Yeah, Tuesday update this week, man. So there's a big one that's the first one. Really, I love, right? So Brock Purdy's numbers after week 13 through 12 games, week 13. The first one, completions. He's now tied for 17th with 233. This is the reason why I'm so excited about this one in particular is because he's been in the 20s for the entire season. I think he was 22nd. Just last week, he's made a huge jump to 17th, which means he's completing a lot more passes compared to his peers, which I love. So that's exciting for me. And he's only attempting the 23rd. So he's 23rd most attempts, 17th in completions. And obviously that's due to his high completion rate, first in the NFL, 70.2. Yards, he's with 3,185. So he's in 7th overall in yards. Average is first with 9.6. He's a whole yard ahead of Tua in that category. Yards per game is 8th with 265.4. The long that one dropped, but that's irrelevant. It went from 4th to 5th. Still with that 76-yard long ball he threw. Passing touchdowns 4th went up. Now he has 23 touchdowns. He moved up in passing touchdowns. He's in 4th. Interceptions tied for 5th with 6. He moved up in there, not negatively. He went improved
In a good way. Yeah.
In a good way, right? Sacks 11th with 23rd. That went down slightly. Sacks for loss tied for 8th. And QBR and passer ratings stay where they're at. He's first in the NFL. His season trend right now, 4,511 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions.
Yeah, very. I mean, shoot, I want to say I'd have to go look at it. I'm pretty sure I would have kept it up. I don't know why I would have gotten rid of it, but I posted on the community tab on my YouTube channel like what I thought his season stats would be. And then a lot of people were posting what they thought they would be. And I want to say I had him only around like 28 touchdowns and maybe 10 picks, something like that. I don't know. I'd have to go look at it, but he's certainly outtrending both of those things. And yards, I know for sure he's outtrending what I thought he was going to be. I thought he'd be closer to like 4,000 yards. So I know he's outtrending there. He's exceeding all the expectations. But why do you think, or not why do you think, because I don't know what your actual opinion is, but we've decided you would take the Brock Purdy side of the argument here. Sure. Why don't you walk us through why Brock Purdy could or possibly should be the league MVP, and then I'll talk about CMC.
Yeah, I think if it's okay, we should probably talk about like the MVP award in general before we dive into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and I can honestly, I really do see things from all different angles on a lot of different subjects, a lot of matters. I like just the way my mind works. I can see things from different viewpoints, so I could understand the argument for Brock Purdy. I can understand the CMC argument. I can understand the Patrick Mahomes argument, and I know that sounds crazy because of the seasons he's having, but there's a million different ways that you could look at this, or Tyreek Hill, right? So MVP. Basically, what it's come down to lately is it's a quarterback award, right? I think the last time somebody won this award was Adrian Peterson, 2012. Am I correct?
Yeah,
the quarterback. I believe that's right.
And only defensive players all time have won it.
Right. So it's strictly a quarterback award. Now it's called the most valuable player. It should probably be called MVQB or something like that.
Yeah, right. Most valuable quarterback. Yeah,
right. Because that's the way it's trending. And then there's another way to look at it, right? Like it's really MVP just for this season, the most valuable player of the season. So they should almost add that, because if you talk about most valuable player, right? Like if all 32 teams released all their players from contract and they all redrafted, kind of like some people do on Madden or whatever when they build their fantasy teams. The first player getting drafted is Patrick Mahomes, right? So
Yeah.
he's the most valuable player in the NFL overall. But if we're talking about just this season, that's different. And I think that needs to be clarified as well. The reason why I would go Brock is because it has been a quarterback award over I mean, quarterbacks are the most important positions in football, in sports, right?
Yes.
And so they automatically have a higher value than every other player on their team. And when you're the quarterback of the 49ers and you're first in, QBR and rating for, whether you hold value to that or not, he's been first consistently for a long time. He's first in completion percentage. He's averaging first in yards per completion at 9.6. He's leading all of these categories, and his team is the best in the NFL. Now, I guess we're going to talk about that and debate that later on as well. But Brock Purdy is leading this team regardless of, any argument that CMC or even Trent Williams. I've heard people make that argument for an MVP candidate. I understand the CMC thing completely, but this is a quarterback award. The quarterback is the most valuable player of any team, the most valuable position in all of sports. And Brock Purdy's the captain leading the ship right now. He's leading in multiple categories. I think right now, if this trend continues, I think it's no question he's going to get the award.
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now, him being the front runner, I can certainly see that. From the CMC perspective, the way that I see it is, it is traditionally been a quarterback award. I agree, but I think when you look at the last few years, the people that have won it, you're looking at guys who are putting up like 5,000 yards passing. They're putting up 50 total touchdowns, like astronomical numbers, and especially with the 17th game added. And when you look across the NFL as a whole, right now, when I look at the quarterback position, some of these numbers are, for whatever reason, they're just down. You've got Josh Allen right now is leading the league in total touchdowns. He's on pace for 46, which that's total touchdowns. If you do passing, it's around like 34 total touchdowns, which is not a high mark. I mean, we've seen, 45, 50, there's some high numbers that have been put out with these MVPs. So when you look at just the passing side, the numbers are down. Now, a lot of these quarterbacks are mobile. Brock Purdy himself, he has a couple rushing touchdowns. When you start to add in the rushing, you're looking at the league leader being around 46 if this trend continues, and we are approaching the end of the season. You're also looking at only one quarterback in the NFL who is trending 5,000 yards passing, and that's CJ Stroud, a rookie, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Wow.
Especially when you look at some of the weapons around him. I mean, he's been incredible. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's incredible. But he's the only one, and he's barely going to clear it. If this trend continues, it's like less than 100 yards. I think it'll be like 5,014 passing yards, which is barely eking past it. Now, I'm not saying these numbers are bad numbers or these quarterbacks aren't having good seasons, but when you look at traditional quarterback MVP seasons over the last few years, numbers have been a lot higher. And I think when you look at the quarterback position, yes, Brock Purdy, certainly you can make the argument he's in the lead. I think you can make an argument for Dak Prescott. I think you can make an argument for Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud we talked about. So I think that there's multiple quarterbacks you can make the argument for. When I remove the quarterback position from the argument and I just look at players, I think there's two players that you could look at. One would be Tyreek Hill, which if he gets 2,000 yards receiving, and he may do that,
it's never been done.
If he doesn't win MVP, that would be kind of crazy in itself.
Yeah.
But let's assume he doesn't break 2,000. Well, the only other player that you can consider, in my opinion, would be CMC. He's number 2 in yards from scrimmage, just behind Tyreek Hill by about 30 yards. So he may pass him. He was leading up until this week, and Tyreek Hill went crazy. He's number 1 in total touchdowns, and he's number 1 in rushing yards. CMC is a do-it-all player. He's effective in the passing game. He's effective in the running game. He's a very good blocker. He's durable. I mean, every time it seems like the 49ers have needed big moments or to take over a game, it's CMC, how many carries is he going to get? He's going to get over 400 touches. This is crazy. He's 27. What are you doing? But he just keeps performing.